Alright, today we're going to begin to look at corridors a little bit more involved than we did last lab. We're going to develop a site from a given DTM surface and then develop from that horizontal and vertical alignments, from which we will then take a look at templates. So one of the things we want to investigate is templates and how they relate to the design profile as well as the corridor. And then we'll finalize things up with pasting surfaces and looking at contours and all of that. So let's go ahead and we're going to go to the settings, create settings for this. And I'm going to start out here. I want to set my feet up to US Survey feet and go over to my ambient settings section and change my angle because I definitely want to be working not in a decimal degree format but DMS. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that, make the changes. Alright, so we're going to start out with a surface that's existing, and in order to do that we need to go to the Insert tab and we're going to go Land XML. So you have a Land XML file. Make sure that you have that available, and also, by the way, print out your PDF files if you haven't done that. We're going to need those. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Surface 8 that I provided for you. Okay, there's my surface. Pretty busy surface. It's got a lot of ups and downs. We're going to just assume that that's what somebody wants us to use. So what I'm going to do is go to surfaces at this point and I want to change the properties because it's really busy. It's a 2 and a 10. I want to bounce that down. I'm going to go to a 5 and a 25 background. So we're going to apply that. We can see that we've got that surface. Okay. So we're going to start by creating some line work. If you generate to your alignment PI station report, we can get in there and enter the information. Now you've got several different methods, but what I want you to hold, we're going to hold the PI station 0 northing and easting, and then from that point on we'll use the bearing and distance information. So what I'm going to do is just going to go to the normal AutoCAD line command, just type in L, and I want to select over here on my snaps, I want to grab this guy, which is a northing and easting entry. So I'm going to enter the first value for my northing, my easting, and select escape. After you've done that, put you at that point. I'm going to then come over here and I'm going to do bearing and distance. So my bearing and distance, quadrant 2, and my distance then is 534. Okay, next bearing and distance sequence, quadrant 3. Okay, follow that out, quadrant 2. And the last one, quadrant 2 as well. And then hit the escape key twice, and there's our basic alignment. So what we'll do is go in and build from this group of lines our alignment. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back to the Home tab, and we're going to go to Alignments, create alignments from objects, which is again a nice way of doing that. So we're going to select the line work, hit enter. Make sure that your direction is in the way that you're indicated there. If it's not, reverse it. Okay, we're going to call this alignment. I'm going to change that. We're going to call this State Route 202. Make this a center line alignment. Starting low station will be 0, 0. We are not going to attach this to any site. This will be a proposed alignment. I'm going to let it go ahead and label it for me. We can add curves. Actually, we'll just go ahead and add curves if you'd like. And I'm going to erase existing entities. We're going to look at our values. So right now it's set to a 200-foot design radius by default, and we'll just go in and change that. So I'm going to hit OK here. And there's your alignment. Okay. So you notice we have PIs and stationing, and everything should be good. The other thing to make sure that you're following with me is that your starting point should be on your surface and your ending point should be on your surface. And at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and do a save to establish that. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to call this Lab 8. And that way, periodically, we want to make sure that we're saving. So if we do that up front, I'm going to put that someplace I can find that. Now we're good. So if we go to our second sheet now, we have a sheet there that is a horizontal curve report. And if we notice in there that designers have actually spec'd out radiuses. So what we want to do is either use a radius or degree of curve. So I want to kind of see what's going on. Remember, highway designers like to use degree of curve. So I'm going to go to Home tab, under the Draw panel here. We have the arc section. I'm going to go to the curve calculator and just check some things. So notice in the curve calculator, we have both degree of curve and radius. What I'm going to do is just go in here and put the radius that I see for that first curve, 477.465. Enter that, and notice it spits back 12 degrees. So I'm pretty much assuming that they're going to hold a 12 degree of curve. And it looks like for the second curve, it's slightly different. Let's look at that one. We have 458.366, and that looks like 2 degrees 30 minutes. So we have 12 degrees, and looks like two curves are at 12 degrees and one is at 12:30. So what I'm going to go in here and do is go ahead and edit this value. I'm going to go to my geometry editor, open up the panorama, and notice my degree curves, they're set to the 200-foot value. So I'm going to go in here and click in this. We're going to set that to 12 degrees. This one to 12 degrees 30 minutes. And this one to 12 degrees. Go ahead and close that panorama. Look at that, and we'll see now that we have everything that we need in there. Just check. You might want to look and see, just see everything looks good. I'm going to look at my lines. Nothing's overlapping. I've got tangents between curves. Everything looks good. So at this point, we now have our profile, our horizontal alignment, from which we will now begin to build a profile. So we're going to go into the profile. What we have to do is cut a profile for this particular alignment, and then we will generate profile information. So I have what's called a PVI station report for you, and it gives us station information, elevation at PVI, and also grade in and out. And so what we're going to do is use that kind of as an initial go through, and then we will come back and finalize that after we get this done. So what we're going to do first is come in here and cut a profile. So what we're going to do is go to Profile, create a surface profile, and we're going to use the alignment State Route 202. I want to use the existing ground surface. I'm going to add that. Notice again, we're going to sample just the center line from 0 to the end station at 2696.74. And I don't really need to do a whole lot other than that, so I'm going to go ahead and say draw this in profile view and just basically say create it. I'm not going to mess with any of that. I'm going to tag this guy over here, just kind of out of the way, and notice there's my profile. What we might want to see, let's see what kind of scale factor we're looking at here. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the profile view properties. Stations, that's good. Elevations, profiles, everything looks good. Information. And let me see the profile view style. Under graph, this is set to a 1 is equal to 4 inches, 4 feet vertical scale. I'm going to set that to a 5. And the current horizontal scale factor, I'm going to make that 50 if it lets me here. Okay, so I'm going to apply that. That wouldn't let me change it there. What I'm going to do is come down here and make that a 50 scale there. Okay, so we're at 50 and 5, so we're 10 to 1 exaggeration. Okay, so there's our profile, design profile. If you notice, and you can toggle this off, but sometimes this is helpful. You see these blue lines in here, and these are indicating PC location, PT. That would be the PC of the next curve, PT. So those are things that, of course, you can change. And we're looking at the banding down here really doesn't mean anything at this point. We could turn that off, and things are overlapping. We've kind of investigated how that's going to work, but for right now, all we're really concerned with doing is actually creating the profile. So I'm going to go ahead and do another save. And what I'm going to do is come in here, and we're going to create a profile uh, using the creation tools. So what we're going to do is profile creation tools. So I'm going to click my profile, and this is going to be a design profile. So what I'm going to do is call this state route. I'm going to call this profile state route 202. And we want to make sure that we are a design profile. That's good. I'm going to go ahead and do a complete label set on this. So we're going to hit OK. And we have all these different tools we know that we've got up here. One thing is we can come in here and we can create curves while we're generating things. So let's go ahead into our curve settings. And you notice that on my initial go through, we're going to set everything to 200 feet. So under the curve, select curve type. Make sure you're set to parabolic. For crest curves, we're going to go ahead and make that a 200-foot length. And for sag, we're going to do the same. Okay, we're going to go ahead and OK that. And at this point, then we can do what's called draw tangents with curves. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a tangent with curves. And I'm going to come over here and use these tools again on my profile. I'm going to do it by profile station elevation. So I'm going to select my profile view. Ask me to specify a station. I'm going to type in 0. And we notice that our elevation is 675, 945. And the next station, 350. Okay, there's our alignment coming in. Next station, 875, 695, 195. And then we're 1225, 689, 945, 1700. And ultimately the last one is 26, 96, 686, 652, 678. And go ahead and the escape key, and we should have our alignment in there. Now what we're going to do is recognize that this may not be perfect because some of the things that we're using to drive this with are just the station and elevation information. So one of the things I want to do, start here, and I want to make sure that this is hitting that point. It's not quite, so what I'm going to do is just drag that, grip that. I want that to be right on the end point of that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to come to the other end because I wanted that to match existing ground at that point as well. And that may be off just a hair too. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grip that and hit its endpoint so that I know I'm touching the exact station at the exact elevation. So now what we have, let's go ahead and drag some of this down. I'm going to just drag my labels down. We're not as worried today about looking a particular way, but we do recognize the fact that you can go in and make a lot of the changes to your labeling, and profile labeling, as we've discussed, is pretty involved. It takes a little bit of doing it a couple times to make sure it works right. But let's take a look now at our profile. And I made a few changes, so I kind of want to make sure my grades are held specifically to what I want. So I'm going to come in here, click on this guy. We're going to now select that. And what I want to make sure is that my grades are explicit. So just because it says -2 here doesn't mean it actually is. So I'm going to go in here and just make sure that's a -2 so it drives it exactly, because I want to hold my grades. I like to design by grades. Again, that could not necessarily be exactly 5%. I'm going to know it's exactly 5 if I key that in. I want this to be a negative 1.5, and I want this to be exactly at 3. And then the last one, I'm going to let it calculate it because I want to hold that grade that we snapped to. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and escape out, and again see if that held that grade. That should have held a point. Okay, that point's good, and you notice everything should be good. So what we've got now is our horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, and we've got our state route 202. We have our existing ground surface, and under the state route 202 we have the profile for that as well. So we've got profiles, existing ground, existing surface, and we have our profile 202. So we're going to be working with these a little bit because we're going to be making some changes throughout the course of what we're going to be getting into. So I'm going to go ahead and do a save.